Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me call to order this uh, meeting of the Macon-Bibb County Commission for our regular commission meetings for September the 22nd of 2020. I need to read this initial little notice that out of an abundance of caution, the Macon-Bibb County Commission committee meeting scheduled for Tuesday, September 22nd at 9 o'clock will be available to the Macon-Bibb County Commissioners by video conference only. And the commission chambers will be closed to the public and press in order to slow the spread of COVID-19. Therefore, the public and press may only access the meeting simultaneously online at www.maconbibb.us, or there's a link on Facebook, www.facebook.com, to a YouTube site where we are broadcasting live on YouTube, but you can get to the YouTube site. The link there is on Facebook. Again, www.facebook.com for anybody. There are a number of announcements that we need to make before we start. And when we start, we'll start with the Economic and Community Development Committee, which we anticipate being a relatively short meeting, take about 30 minutes, we think, and then we'll go into the Committee of the Whole. And we project that to be a fairly long meeting because we got a couple of issues of significance and an executive session that may take us a little while. And then we'll finally end up with operations and finance. So a full morning. We do have a number of upcoming events that I want to make the commissioners aware of. Tomorrow morning, Wednesday, September the 23rd at 9 o'clock, we'll be over at 195 Fairview Avenue in East Macon off of Main Street for the demolition of a couple of structures. The lots will be cleared and the property will be conveyed to the Department of the Interior and National Park Service to be included in the new expanded boundary of Okmulgee Mounds National Historical Park. So that's 9 o'clock tomorrow morning at 195 Fairview Avenue off of Main Street over in East Macon. On Thursday, October the 1st, that's the River Edge Recovery Center grand opening. And again, Commissioner Bivens has been such an advocate for so long for that. And this is kind of the realization of that new or the opening of that new center that I think is going to be a big help. Again, that's Thursday, October the 1st at 10 o'clock, and that'll be at 3575 Fulton Mill Road. So I'm sure you'll want to be there at that time. The Randy Stevens Tennis Center grand opening and dedication is set for Wednesday, October the 7th at 10 o'clock. So you got a little bit of time before Wednesday, October the 7th, but that's out at the new South Bibb Recreation Center or adjacent to it. There's also an Industrial Authority event on Friday, October the 9th at 10 o'clock. It's the groundbreaking for the new facility for Middle Georgia Freightliner, which was located off the Hawkinsville Road, and they had a fire about a year or so ago and burned the place beyond repair. So now they have purchased a lot in I-75 Business Park, and this will be the ground opening for their new facility, the Middle Georgia Freightliner, and the Industrial Authority is hosting that Friday, October 9th at 10 o'clock at the I-75 Business Park. Other grand openings and groundbreakings of significance we have yet to schedule. One, the Fillmore Thomas Park Phase 2 is scheduled for Thursday, October the 15th, but we're still working on a time and date for Frankie Lewis Park off of Houston Avenue. Freedom Park Phase 4 groundbreaking, the Booker T. Washington Center grand opening, Henderson Stadium grand opening, Dolores Brooks Recreation Center grand opening, the Gilead Recreation Center opening, and the Carolyn Creighton Park dedication. Those will be announced going forward. Also, we want to kind of keep you posted and keep you up to date on developments of significance. I'm going to call on Michael first and see if he can't update us on the most recent executive order by Governor Kemp pertaining to COVID, as well as when the current state of emergency will expire. Michael, let me call on you at this point.
Can I just remind everyone, please, to mute your device if you are watching this meeting, because someone's audio is causing an echo. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the state of emergency currently is still running through October the 10th. I just checked the governor's executive order website this morning. There's been no update to that as of this morning. His pattern has been waiting until about the end of the month. If he's going to extend it, I would expect it to be extended in about a week or so. The other executive order, his biweekly Empowering a Healthy Georgia executive order, is currently in effect through September 30th. This was the one that he released just a few minutes before our meeting last week. I've since had a chance to review that executive order, and the really only the substantive change, one substantive change to it, was that the Department of Public Health had issued guidelines for reopening long-term care facilities, such as nursing homes or things like that. And it's a phased approach based on the per capita case count within each county, that allows for things like visitation to begin again in these long-term care facilities. And so the new governor's order takes out the previous regulations prohibiting all visitation to long-term care facilities and that sort of thing, and instead adopts this phased approach that was published by the Department of Public Health. And so that's something that, just depending on the case count within a locality, is going to begin to allow people to visit their loved ones in these facilities and things like that again in the coming weeks. That's all I have for you, Mr. Mayor, for right now.
Good. Thank you, Michael. That was helpful. And I was going to ask Spencer Hawkins to kind of give us an update, if he's on there, about the latest numbers of COVID and kind of where we are with that. Spencer, are you on the line with us? I understand he is not on the line at this point, but we'll call him and see if he can make a report to us shortly. I want to be sure. I see everybody on there. It looks like, but I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. And if you would, when she calls your name, unmute yourself and answer present, so we can have a verbal confirmation of a quorum before we turn this over to Economic and Community Development.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Valerie Wynn.
Present.
Commissioner Larry Schlesinger.
Here.
Commissioner Elaine Lucas.
Here.
Commissioner Mallory Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Burt Bivens.
Here.
Commissioner Joe Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Scotty Shepard. He stepped out, but he's here. Commissioner
He's there, but he's there. You got him look here.
Right. Commissioner Virgil Watkins.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Al Tillman.
Here.
Yes, sir. We have all 9.
Good. We're all present. Then the first committee to meet this morning is Economic and Community Development. That'll be chaired by Chairman Lucas. Chairman Lucas, let me turn this over to you at this point to conduct the meeting of the Economic and Community Development Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning to everyone. All right. Are we awake this morning?
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay. The members of the Economic and Community Development Committee are Lucas, Schlesinger, Bivens, Shepard, and Watkins. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, and we'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Okay.
Been motion and second to approve the minutes. Is there a discussion? If not, all in favor of approval, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, and the minutes are approved. Our second item is the appointment to authorities, boards, and committees. A is a resolution appointing Scarlett Farr to the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Commission. Is Scarlett on the
No, ma'am,
call?
we haven't seen her yet. She may not have signed on yet, but I'll double check with Carol. I'll get her to call her.
Okay, we will just hold that one. Item B is a resolution appointing Weston Hamilton Stroud to the Central Georgia Joint Development Authority. So we'll entertain a motion on that.
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and second to approve that. Is Mr. Stroud on the,
Yes,
I thought I
ma'am.
saw him.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Weston, how are you this morning?
Good, good. How are you?
That's great. That's great. We've had a motion and a second to approve your appointment by the mayor to the Central Georgia Joint Development Authority. You know anything about it?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I figured you would. What what do you see as your role?
Well, currently I serve as, or I'm going through the process of being a Middle Georgia regional leadership champion. And so even in my current capacity, I'm doing a lot to learn about different activities, different developments that are happening in the surrounding counties. And so just having that knowledge, as well as some background knowledge on what's happening in our local government, I think working together to come up with a cohesive, unified plan is really what we need. I think Macon can benefit from it. So, I'm excited to be a part of it.
Okay. We've got some exciting things that are happening on that Joint Development Authority, and some economic development going on, and some other things that you'll be excited to be a part of. I serve on that board. The mayor also serves on that board. And who's the other one, Mr. Mayor? That Mr. Miller?
Yes, correct. Walt Miller.
Walt Miller is on there. And so he is taking, Mr. Stroud is taking the place of
Rick Hutto.
Rick Hutto, who moved to Florida, I believe. Okay, so any questions, any comments from anybody on the committee or on the commission? All right. I just want to mention one wonderful thing that's happening is that property that's in the no-fly zone out at the tip end of District 3 that I represent, right at Warner Robins. Mr. Mayor, you might want to mention that. I'm sure everybody's familiar, but the solar farm.
Right. Let's see if I'm
You are.
unmuted now.
You are.
And everybody will remember that the crash zone immediately north of Robins Air Force Base and in line with the runway, along with the noise contour lines, was the subject of a previous SPLOST effort to buy out and buy up residential properties in that area to reduce population encroachment. That was one of the things that the BRAC Commission pointed out as being a weakness for Robins Air Force Base. And so Bibb County bought up, along with Peach County and Houston County, a pool of money and bought up a lot of the residential properties in the crash zone and in the noise contour zones. And then they had the opportunity to solicit a solar energy project, which was designed to improve the sustainability of the power supply for Robins Air Force Base and make it more sustainable and more resilient, in addition to generating power for the grid, the integrated grid that we use for electricity. So there's about a 650-acre solar project that is under construction now. And all of that is being orchestrated by the Central Georgia Joint Development Authority. The encroachment and the acquisition and demolition of residential structures in the crash zone, as well as now this solar energy project. So if you ride out the 247 and as you go by the Middle Georgia Regional Airport and look on the left-hand side, you can't miss it. Literally this 650-acre solar energy project that's under construction. Very exciting. So
Okay,
it's a win-win. It's a win-win-win situation.
What's it mean as far as taxes for Macon-Bibb?
It is significant, and the taxes that will be paid are paid as a pilot payment in lieu of taxes, so that the regional commission and the Central Georgia Joint Development Authority can repay Bibb County and Houston County and there was a third county that had some. Peach County, sure.
Peach.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Peach County can repay them for the initial investment to buy this up, as well as to generate a significant amount of money for Bibb County as a payment in lieu of taxes. And as a final added incentive, there's about a payment of somewhere around $30,000 a year to the Central Georgia Joint Development Authority for being the administrative arm. So that'll give them a little bit of working capital to try to do other projects in the region. So it's a win-win-win proposition, if you ask me, Chairman Lucas.
Okay, thank you so much for that additional information. I'm just proud that all the development is going on in District 3, y'all. All right, so we've got a motion and second to approve the appointment. Anything further? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Mr. Stroud, congratulations. We're going to recommend your approval to the full commission. There'll be one more vote, and we are sure that you will be successful in joining this with such positive things going on. And thank you so much for being willing to serve. Before we end this meeting, Ms. Mayor, did we ever get that other nomination to the tree, the Arbor Conservation? George Thomas?
No, ma'am. I don't think we did, but I'll follow up with that. I'll ask Carol where we are with that.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else to come before this committee?
Madam Chairman, the only thing I would say is Scarlett Farr, I'm sorry that she wasn't able to call in this morning, but her appointment to the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Commission, might we make arrangements for her to call in at pre-commission the first meeting in October? Because we're not going to meet at all. We're not going to meet at all next week. That's the 5th Tuesday, so there'll be no meetings next Tuesday. But I think it's October the 6th. That's the first meeting in October, and maybe we could bring her online and see if she can't pass, so we could vote on her that same night, October 6th.
That would be great. Is that okay with the other committee members? Okay, that will be done. All right. If there's nothing else, then we will stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Lucas. Oh, and by the way, Chairman Lucas, a little bird told me that yesterday was a special day for you. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Is yesterday your birthday?
It was. Yes.
Oh, well, happy birthday, Chairman Lucas.
Which birthday?
39 and
Yeah.
39.
Happy
That's my
birthday.
story. Thank you. That's my story.
Mr. Mayor, I have something to confess too. Yesterday was also, I did not realize this. Yesterday was also my birthday.
Well,
So,
happy
I'm also 39. What a coincidence.
That's right. Stick to it.
Well, dude, that's great. Happy birthday to you as well. Absolutely. That's good.
Thank you.
All right. Let me call to order the committee of the whole. And we have as I mentioned earlier, a fairly long agenda, but so let's get started. The first item of business is approval of the minutes of our September the 8th meeting. Those minutes have been prepared and distributed. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, can I get a motion? Got a motion by Schlesinger and Watkins. Is that who I heard?
Thought it was
I'll
Bivens.
second.
Win. Okay. So I got a motion and second to approve the minutes. All in favor of approval of the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it and the minutes are approved. The next item is the resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a purchase and sales agreement with Eberhard Industries and Mead Road Environmental to amount not to exceed $8,750,000 for the purchase of land located at 4300 Mead Road to be paid with 2018 SPLOST funds. It is, if you permit me just to say, I want to say to the members of the commission how much I appreciate your thoughtful consideration of this as a possible SPLOST project back when we were deciding in, I guess, maybe 2016 or so, when we were trying to decide what to include in the SPLOST. The commissioners felt it appropriate that the closure of the Walker Road landfill and arrangements for the solid waste disposal going forward was a worthwhile project. They included it in the SPLOST. The second, I'm sorry, the second part of it. I'm sorry, who's talking and say it again? I thought I heard somebody trying to correct me, but so the SPLOST project was included. The solid waste disposal part was included, and of course we had a successful vote by the people, and now they are anticipating, and we are trying to ensure that we do close the Walker Road landfill, and are making arrangements to do that. As well as other arrangements for the continued appropriate disposal of solid waste. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, and as you've heard me say this on several occasions, but really you need to consider the different types of solid waste. Municipal solid waste, which is currently being disposed of through a subcontract with Advanced Disposal. They go around and actually collect garbage, household garbage from individual residences for us, and then they haul it in the collection trucks direct to their landfill at Wolf Creek in Twiggs County, and they dispose of it there. And that contract, Dr. Moffitt, I think goes for approximately another 4 years before it'll come up for renewal. The second thing is that we have construction and demolition debris. And this is primarily exactly what it sounds like. Houses that we demolish and waste from construction projects that is non-putrescible. It doesn't rot or stink, but it goes into a C&D type landfill. We used to have a C&D landfill that was immediately adjacent to the Walker Road landfill. But it was ordered closed by the EPD about 2 years ago because it was in the wetland, and they had a new regulation now that you couldn't have the landfills, and so they ordered it closed. And we have really been trying to do without a C&D landfill per se, and a lot of the C&D waste has been placed in the Walker Road municipal landfill. And that's not the smartest way to fill up your Walker Road landfill, because C&D material doesn't have to be covered every day with 6 inches of dirt the way that municipal solid waste does. So when you take up space in your landfill with C&D, then you're not making the best use and disposition of C&D materials. And finally, you've got to consider inert materials, which are leaves, yard clipping, limbs, debris, trees, and everything else that you may cut down out of your yard. I think it goes without saying that while none of us would prefer to be in the trash business, it is an essential service that we must provide to the residents and citizens of Bibb County. The appropriate and environmentally appropriate disposition of solid waste of all types is, I think, one of the fundamental obligations of local government: police, fire, and sanitation, and under sanitation, trash collection service. So now the question is, how do we best find a way to dispose of MSW, C&D, and inert waste like trees, limbs, and debris. Our solid waste management plan, which was developed and presented under the leadership of Kevin Barkley when he was here. We had several meetings to discuss the plan for the closure of Walker Road landfill, because it's got about 2 years of life expectancy left. And in order to try to get it closed before it runs out of capacity, because we've been told no more vertical expansions of the Walker Road landfill, we've had to entertain and look at what we do. So our solid waste plan called for the closure of the Walker Road landfill. Secondly, our consultants have told us you do not want to lose control over the waste stream. Otherwise, you find yourself basically at the mercy of the competitive interest if you've got no alternative. So they felt like a transfer station, at the very least, for municipal solid waste was necessary and appropriate. That way you could basically put out an RFP for transportation to more efficiently transport the MSW to an MSW Title 4 landfill. There's one up in Spalding County. There's, of course, the one I just mentioned for Advanced in Twiggs County. There's also one in Houston County, and there's one over in Taylor County, I believe, and others that I may not know, so that you can competitively bid out the disposition of MSW. But as I just mentioned, we've got about 4 years to make that determination of where to build a transfer station and what to do with MSW. The C&D is the second part. Yes, you could try to do the same thing with the C&D. And build a transfer station or use a transfer station to transfer and transport. But then you're going to be paying for the tipping fee at whatever location you go to of your C&D material. An alternative, we put out an RFP. And again, Dr. Moffitt, you may have to correct me if I'm wrong, but we put out an RFP about a year ago that was asking for 3 things. It was asking for dirt of the appropriate type to use to cover the Walker Road landfill as part of its closure. And that can't be just any old dirt. It has to be dirt that is got a composition of mostly clay, so that it has it's impervious and water doesn't flow easily through it. And it serves as a cap on top of the mound to keep rainwater from intruding and filtering down through the landfill. It's got some sort of scientific name of like the porosity is a 10 to the minus 5 compression statistic, but it just basically means it's almost solid clay. So we will put out the RFP, and you got to have 18 inches of clay cover over 120 acres. To close the Walker Road landfill. So we're talking about a lot of dirt of this type. So it's a fairly expensive proposition. The second part of the RFP we asked for was a site for a C&D landfill. If we could find a site for a C&D landfill in Bibb County, that we wanted to investigate that. And finally, would be a site for a transfer station and to be in the future. And a transfer station, of course, could be for either MSW and or C&D material. The response that we got from Eberhard that we'll be talking about today basically offers all three. The site on Mead Road does have the quantity and the quality of the clay that we will need to close the Walker Road landfill. Number two, it has been approved or does have a site suitability approval from EPD to be a C&D landfill, subject only to the appropriate development operation plan, D&O plan that has.
Mute.
He's frozen.
Oh. Oh, he left.
Now
Hey,
he's
this is Rachel. We had a little hiccup with the mayor's device, so we're working on that. Give us just 1 second. Thank y'all.
I mean, I hate to talk while he's not. I guess that would be rude, but
yeah, he's overselling it. So maybe that's what happened.
That's just what I was going to say. He's overselling it. Let's move on.
He's talking.
We already know all these.
That's what happened when you oversell.
I think that was an omen for him to be frozen.
Okay.
When the cat's away.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
We talked about you good while you were gone.
When the cat's away.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you did.
We voted to limit. We voted to limit your speaking. But it failed. Go ahead.
Well, so the Eberhard site, I hope y'all heard me through that part. The Eberhard site offered an appropriate solution to all three. Number one, it's got the clay soils that we need to close the Walker Road landfill. B, it's got the site suitability rating to be a C&D landfill, subject only to a D&O plan. And third, this 120 plus or minus acres site does offer the site to have what I refer to as a convenience center for our citizens to use. That I think would help tremendously if you give them an appropriate location that's convenient and attractive to dump old furniture, mattresses, chairs, and stuff like that we are constantly finding being illegally dumped all over the county. If you had a convenience center, you could put that on this same site along with a transfer station if you wanted to build your own transfer station. So what I'm trying to do today is to advance this so that we can acquire this site on Mead Road and like to try to get discussion going about that. We've got several people that are on the line with us today. Carl Hofstetter, who is the engineering consultant for Eberhard, who has been doing most of the work over the past several years to get the site suitability letter and is also ready to assist with the surface mining permit and the D&O plan that would have to be put together. We've also got our engineering consultant, either Kent McCormick and or Dan Wallace, I think, are on the line and available to answer any additional questions. The final thing that I would like to do before I quit talking, Mayor Pro Tem, and let y'all talk, is to say that there ain't no perfect site. Period. End of story. There is no perfect site. It is beyond the realm of possibilities to even think about trying to site an MSW landfill in Bibb County. It's beyond the realm of possibility. That ain't gonna happen. it is also going to be a very difficult proposition to get any other site anywhere in Bibb County cited for a C&D landfill. You don't want it over in off of East Macon, East Bibb County. You don't want it in South Bibb County. You don't want it in West Bibb County. You don't want it anywhere close in. It's just terribly, terribly difficult. But there is one site in Bibb County that has already been through all the P&Z fights, all the regulation fights, all the site suitability fights, and got this site suitability rating to be a C&D landfill. And it's, I think, located appropriately in an industrial area of Bibb County. It's off of Meade Road, on the north side of Meade Road. Meade Road, of course, has got several industries, including graphic packaging at the end of the street down there. So while there is a neighborhood that everybody is interested in, it's on the other side of Meade Road from this, and on the other side of a park, and separated, and got a buffer there that I don't think that this C&D landfill would cause them any problem. So if you don't do this C&D, it's not like you can find another site or go to another one. I think you then have to go into the idea of transferring or transporting your C&D waste to another C&D landfill outside of the county. And that, I think, is where Mr. Hofstadter has done some analysis for you about the cost savings that this could represent. And I'm gonna call on him next to kind of go over some of his facts and figures and correct anything that I've said wrong. But the final thing that I would say to you is some people have told me, I don't want to get into the landfill business. We have got a miserable reputation of operating a landfill. And I can't disagree with that. We have had a very difficult time with the Walker Road landfill because it's on its third or fourth vertical expansion, and we're hauling trash and garbage up on top of a hill, and then having to go out and acquire dirt from a borrow pit or buy it and bring the dirt up on top of the hill to cover the waste. Very difficult, very hard to do, very expensive and inefficient. So I would say there really is no good analogy to operating a new C&D landfill to the Walker Road landfill. But if you don't want to be in the operation business, you can subcontract with the private sector for the operation. I know that because we've already been contacted by a provider, and be glad to discuss that with you more, who is anxious to talk about letting them operate this C&D landfill for us. Carl, let me call on you at this point to give the commissioners a brief summary of kind of why you think from an economic standpoint this makes sense. And then I'll certainly invite Kent McCormick and or Dan Wallace to add anything if they want to at that point. And then we'll turn it over for questions, comments by individual commissioners if that's appropriate. Carl?
All right, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
I don't have to talk as long as the mayor, do I?
No, please, no.
Well, I think that we have talked about this last time, and I am going to be brief. But I sent out a fact sheet to each one of you, and I think Kent went through it and made his own comments on it. And I have to say, I think he did a pretty good job with that. And I think the main thing we need to talk about is Kent and I agree on the methodology that we went through to determine whether or not a C&D landfill is appropriate for Macon-Bibb. So without going and boring you with, he thinks it's this number, I think it's that number. If we go to the last page on the conclusions, we estimate the net income savings of a landfill to be 40 million, and he says it's going to be 15 million. I think that the difference is he thinks it's going to cost more to build the C&D than I do. I think when you do the mining permit, I think that you're going to mold the C&D landfill. When you pull that dirt out of Meade Road and take it to Walker, I mean, you're gonna form up what's gonna be the C&D landfill. But
So
even if it's
is
15
that
million,
over the course of time or a 1-year number, the 40 and 15 million numbers that y'all are talking about?
that's over a 30 to 40 year time frame. Okay.
Okay, so you're thinking that we're going to net $1 million per year?
I do, and I think it's 1.4. He thinks it's 1 million. Either way, it's over $1 million a year that you're going to save.
And the Walker Road landfill, what was this return? Is that based on the history of Walker Road?
Yes, I assume I'm not familiar with Walker Road. The problem with Walker Road is that it's really nobody's fault that's alive today. In the 50s and 60s, when that thing was built, I think they just dug down the groundwater and started dumping. It was a dump, just started dumping garbage in.
They used the technology available in the 50s and 60s. So I guess I'm asking how much money over its lifetime, who on the call is able to tell me that? You're telling me that a new landfill can make X amount of dollars. The landfill we have now has been a business for us, an enterprise for us for what, 6 decades?
Yeah.
How much money has it made us? Surely it's netted us a profit and it's sitting in the bank that you can tell me about today, someone.
Kent, are you online?
I am, and I don't have that information for you, that kind of history for you. So I really don't have an answer.
So I
can tell you that in 2019, the revenue from tipping fees was just over $1 million.
So the revenues were $1 million. How much did we spend managing the place?
I believe the budget is, was $2.8 million.
So that sounds like it lost $1.8 million. That am I correct?
Well,
yes.
We're talking about two different things.
But we're comparing apples and oranges, really.
I'm talking about a landfill and I guess.
Well, hold on, Commissioner Watkins. Let me say this. I introduced Carl Hofstadter as being the civil engineer. Kent McCormick came on, and Kent, of course, is another civil engineer, but he works for Macon-Bibb County and has been part of the Walker Road and the closure of Walker Road and the kind of the engineering. And yes, you are probably right. We are losing money on Walker Road. There's no doubt about it. But it is the only landfill, MSW landfill, operating by a large city in the state of Georgia that is not a Subtitle D approved landfill. It has no liner in it. It wasn't built with a liner. It's had vertical expansions granted over the years. It is a hopelessly inadequate from an environmental standpoint, from an operational standpoint, and everything else. We inherited a terrible situation with the Walker Road landfill, and that's one of the reasons why I am thrilled to death that we put it on the SPLOST list and the people voted and approved to get it closed and do something new, different, better, cheaper with our MSW. But that also then leads you to the discussion of what are you going to do with your C&D waste? And in my opinion, it would not be practical to transport C&D waste and dump it into an MSW landfill for the reasons I've talked about too long already. But let Carl finish, and then we can get to specific questions from you about cost histories and what we can and can't find out.
Thank you, Mayor. And
I was just trying to figure out what the 40 and the 15 were based off of, if not the history of landfill.
That's fine. Ask that question. Let them tell you about their analysis going forward for a new C&D landfill. I think they'd be much better able to tell you that than the history of the Walker Road landfill and why it ain't making money down there now.
I guess I just think that it's going to be the same waste stream transported because, it's the Bibb County. So why wouldn't the history of it? But yeah, I would love to understand why the history of the Walker Road landfill isn't an adequate gauge of how much the county would or wouldn't make. And
well,
that'll help me understand.
Kent, let me go and then I'll let you, and then you can go if that's all right. As the mayor said, Republic is taking your garbage to Tweeds County via the garbage truck. That Walker Road landfill, I don't think it's taking anything but what? C&D right now, which is terribly inefficient. And in order for that landfill that big with the problems it has, it needs, if you were going to make that thing profitable, you needed the 500 to 600 tons a day that you're producing and sending it to Twiggs. Twiggs is the one, Republic is the one making the money, Virgil. They're the ones making money because they got the landfill. Now,
where do we get 500 tons of new trash from?
That's what you're going to put on your transfer station. You're going to transfer your municipal solid waste. So instead of sending your garbage trucks all the way to Tweeds County, you're going to put a transfer station, and then you can take it to Twiggs, or you can take it to Houston, or you can
totally agree with the transfer station. That makes sense.
Okay, so forget that. But what I'm saying is the little amount of trash you're putting in Walker it's not efficient, and y'all aren't running it correctly. And that's why you're losing money. And now, but as far as the C&D, if you put the C&D trash on a transfer truck, it's going to be $33 to $35 a ton. Okay. That's plus the cost of transportation. Now, if you build this C&D, the operation and maintenance of the C&D, I've got down at $17 a ton, and Kent thinks it's $21 a ton. But either way, that difference is the result of what I say is going to be a profit of 1.4 million. He says a profit of 1 million. Now, I called Toombs County and I said, I'd like an audited report of what it cost you to operate and maintain your landfill, including the municipal solid waste, and it was $15.07. Now, I have talked to some of y'all, y'all said, well, I think Toombs County operates obviously better than we do, and he's probably right. And so that's why one option that you could have, if you so desire, is to sub this out to a private landfill operator, and he'll operate the landfill for you. And what you do is you say, okay, we're gonna, if we put it on a transfer truck, it's $35 a ton. Mr. Operator, we want a price from you per ton, okay, per ton. So we're not gonna talk about how long you have to work. We're not gonna talk about any of that other stuff, how efficient you're gonna be. But you just tell us what you're gonna charge per ton. And so the difference between what he is gonna charge you and then what you would have to pay to put it on a transfer station, that's the money that you will make. Ken, is that fair enough?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
And so that's the difference. I do know that every county that we're doing landfills for, which is between 6 and 10, every one of them love their C&D because they make money on CT, because it costs half as much to build it, because you don't have a liner, and you don't have to do 10 to the -7 dirt, and you don't have leachate, you don't have pumps, and you don't have to cover it every day. All you have to do is take that C&D waste and put it into your C&D landfill that's cost less to build, even though your tipping fee will be close to the same as MS&W. So I've talked too much, Virgil, but that's the bottom line of it, and that's why I think it's probably a good idea for y'all to do that.
So, but help me out.
Okay.
The part where I get caught at is that we have $1 million in revenue coming into the current C&D landfill that we operate and we're about to close down. And somehow that's going to generate me, by opening up the new one, we're thinking that we're going to get more customers. Is that part of the logic?
Well, we've estimated 150 tons a day of C&D, but regardless,
how many tons a day of C&D do we collect today as Macon-Bibb County?
Well, I think it's that 150 tons that you're talking about.
Okay.
I just think you're inefficient on how you're doing that. So
I understand from the expense side as being inefficient. When you say that, when it talks about the revenue.
Yep. Commissioner Watkins, let me again interrupt, and I apologize, but we are operating an MSW landfill at Walker Road. most of the garbage that is being dumped there is C&D. Most of it is C&D, but there
Right,
is,
that's what we're charging people for, right?
but well, hold on. We are operating Walker Road as an MSW, and it does have some MSW mixed in. As a result of having MSW mixed in with the C&D, we have to cover it every day with 6 inches of dirt. Every day we have to cover it with 6 inches of dirt. Now, Carl just told you, if it were a true C&D landfill with no MSW being dumped in with it, you don't have to cover it, but once every 30 days.
And I totally respect that, but I guess where I'm stuck at, that's all on the expense side. In terms of revenue, if I'm understanding right, you said that our revenue total, C&D and MSW included right now, is $1 million in tipping fees annually. Is that, am I saying that? Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, yes, that's the latest information that I have.
All right, and so only C&D material, how much tipping fees is it broken down like that? That seems important.
It's not broken down like that. It's only broken down with all waste going to.
Is 50-50 fair? Is a 50-50 assumption fair?
And it's not that much.
No, it's probably about 80% C&D waste.
It's 80% C&D. Okay, so 800,000 of our dollars, we have $800,000 of revenue from C&D, and that means that what? Well, net revenue, gross revenue is 800. So net revenue we're anticipating would be what per year? What do you two agree upon?
Let me say this. I think we're getting off. We're not communicating very well.
I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's my fault. But what I'm saying is, if you don't have a C&D, Virgil, you're going to pay $35 a ton. So your expenses is going to go up to $35 a ton. And what I'm saying is, when I say the 1.4 million, a lot of that is savings that you're not going to have to spend if you put it in a truck and send it off. So if your expenses right now are just say $1 million, that's going to go up to something like $2 million because you're closing your landfill and you're having to pay the $35 a ton to send it off. So the money that we're talking about, some of that is savings that you're not going to have to spend if you have your own C&D, if that makes sense to you.
I mean, so when you talk about the $15, I assume that you're talking about the annual savings per year, the staff, the salary, the trucks and all that. But I've also got the front end cost of the $8 million to purchase the land, the $5 or $6 million to build the thing, the $3 million worth of materials and trucks over the course of the life of the thing. And then what we're learning about now, 60 years later, some poor county commissioner have to dedicate $30 million to a closure account for the closure of a landfill. So it's not just the $15 million when you think about it like that, it's a lot more. So do I want to spend 33 tons, and it's the environmental impact. So do I want to pay $30 a ton to just be gone with the trash? Maybe so. That's what I'm trying to decide. Right now, it seems like we may be generating $200,000 a year in trash, and that'll never be worth it to spend this amount of money on up front. But if you are talking about something where we've got the original $80 million net fall that you talked about, that's something, but I don't think it's there because you're talking about $1 million in revenue is what Bibb County historically generates in trash. Unless there's some new source of trash that we're taking.
Commissioner Watkins, two things. Number one, the people of Macon-Bibb County have come up with the money to buy the landfill and to do it. I think there's approximately $18 million in the timeline for closure of Walker Road and siting a new C&D landfill and a transfer station.
The transfer, that's what is in money for to close the landfill and build a transfer station. That's what the people of Bibb County voted on. This landfill is extra and it's always been extra. You added that later. It says transfer station that we voted on that ballot.
I'm just saying that the timeline that we have constructed and approved and I have been operating on has 3 lines on it. One is the closure of Walker Road, 2 is property acquisition, and 3 is transfer station.
That's what
And
your
the
internal
time.
document, the people of Bibb County, correct me if I'm wrong, voted on a transfer station. That is our obligation to the people.
We'll get the attorney to look up the specific language of that. But the second point that I'm trying to make to you, sir, is that currently, because there is no C&D landfill open in Bibb County, other than the Walker Road landfill, which will take C&D and just dump it in MSW, which I hope agreed ain't the smartest thing to do. So current contractors are hauling their C&D materials down to Houston County to a transfer station at Alberta Crossing, or they're having Mike Castile haul it to out of county to dispose of it at a cheaper rate, even with the transportation cost. If you had a new modern C&D landfill, you would get additional trash from Bibb County and surrounding counties coming into Bibb to be disposed of at your C&D landfill. I'm confident of that.
Right. There's a surrounding county that doesn't have a landfill. I don't even know why I took that bait. I apologize. I yield.
Well, it's just how far you have to haul it, Virgil. In other words, people would prefer the shortest haul, and if you have a subtitle D in the middle of Macon, then those people don't have to travel that far. They'll just bring it there and put it in that C&D.
So let me ask you: it's impossible to design in your opinion, it's not possible to design a transfer station that can. Well, in your opinion, it's just cheaper to bury it ourselves.
Well, it's like I said, the amount of money that I said that you're going to make, also, to repeat myself, is the amount of money you're going to save. In other words, if you don't build a C&D, and that's fine, and you put it in a transfer station, that's fine, but you're going to pay the piper. You're going to pay that $35 a ton. So your expenses are going to go up. Your user fees are going to go up, and everything that is billed to the citizens is going to go up. Okay. And so, but if you use the SPLOST money to help build the C&D, then everybody's cost remains down. And I think that's the spirit of a SPLOST. And I'm getting in a philosophical thing here, and I shouldn't, but that's because I'm an engineer, but that's the philosophy behind it, Virgil. You use the SPLOST to help reduce your user fees, to help reduce your O&M cost. And that's what it would do. But if you want to put it on a transfer station, you absolutely can. You can.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Allen, I was just going to ask any other commissioner who have a question of Carl. But go ahead, sir.
The question I have is, what is the value of the property on Mead Road?
I'll tell you that I think the value of the property without a landfill is practically, I don't know, not much at all. $100,000.
Okay, but what are we paying for the property on Mead Road?
You're paying for the landfill. You're paying for the permit. You're paying to be able to use that as a C&D landfill.
I would like to see a breakdown exactly how much, who we paying what to, is what I need. I mean, you're talking millions of dollars.
Right.
And I would like to see where the millions of dollars are going to. You just answered my question. The property itself is not very valuable.
Correct.
So who are we paying the money to? I know a transfer station is going to cost some money. I know getting everything ready is going to cost some money. You already said it didn't have to be lined. So who's getting the money?
Well, I can answer that question for you, Commissioner Allen.
I don't care who answered it.
I can answer that question for you. We are paying to Mead Road Environmental 2 LLC and Everhart Industries Incorporated a purchase price that has 2 components to it. Number one is a $3 million payment at the time we obtain title to the land. And that roughly approximates the value of the dirt we're going to mine out of it. When you say, wait, hold on. The second component is after Eberhard and Meade Road Industries gets the approved D&O plan from EPD, Development and Operation.
EPD, I understand from a letter that I received, has already approved this landfill. Is that correct or wrong?
That's incorrect. What they have done is given a site suitability approval saying that it is appropriate, but it cannot be permitted until you get a D&O plan. So what we've done is we have said we're going to pay $3 million for this property, and that's roughly the value of the dirt we're going to mine out of it. Then Eberhard and Meade Road are going to get the D&O plan approved by EPD. And if approved, or when approved by EPD, you multiply the number of cubic yards of disposal space that is approved by $1.75 per cubic yard. And Carl hopes that he can get this site permitted for, is it 5 million cubic yards?
Yes.
5 million cubic yards. So you would multiply 5 million times $1.75. That's what comes up to about $5.7 million.
So the word,
hold on, let me finish.
Okay.
No, hold on, let me finish. So if for whatever reason, Eberhard and Meade Road cannot get the D&O plan approved, then the money that we put in escrow at closing, $5.7 million, comes back to us with the interest that it earned. If he can't get his D&O plan, there's your insurance policy. If he can't get a D&O plan, then basically we get the $5.7 million back out of the escrow account.
Does he keep the three?
Yes, we own the land.
I mean, does he keep the 3 million?
Yes, he does keep the 3 million because that's the value of the dirt that we've mined out of it.
It's our property.
Joe,
right.
Joe, wait. If you've got a piece of property with a gold mine under it, is the value of the property or the value of the gold?
The value of the land?
No, it's the value of the gold.
But it's ours already.
And the purchase price is $3 million.
All I asked for earlier, Mayor, was a breakdown of where the money went. I understand
all 8.7.
What's under there.
Okay.
I understand what's under.
All 8.7 goes to Meade Road LLC and Eberhard Industries.
But I was told Eberhard that he'd already had. It was already been, EPD had already approved that site. Now,
they have.
Well, while it's ago, you said they had not.
They approved the site suitability. And all you got to do now is to get a D&O plan.
Gold oil.
I don't think we got our dogs all in the right order.
So, just for clarity for me, does permitted D&O plan mean that they're building a transfer station and landfill for us?
No.
Oh, so would there still be a structure to build after we got through with all that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so what does permitting require them to do? Just paperwork and interaction, or is there environmental stuff?
Carl or Kent?
Yeah. In other words, that site has been approved by the city of Macon, and it's been approved by EPD to build a landfill. That's the hard part. That's what took us 10 years to get, because we had to get all kinds of geological surveys and geotechnical surveys. And so EPD says, okay, this site is approved to build a D&O, a C&D landfill. Now, what we need from you is a design and operation plan that shows us how you're going to build it.
And so how much is that going to cost us?
That's not going to cost. That's not going to cost you anything. Eberhard has to do that. That's part of the deal that he did. So that's going to be included in the 8.75 is to get an approved D&O plan. If you don't get an approved D&O plan, then you don't, as I understand it, you don't get the 5.7 million. I guess that's the number. So that's, but all that has to be done before the additional $5.7 million is given to Eberhard. A DNO plan has to be approved, and that lets the city of Macon-Bibb go ahead and build the C&D landfill.
Is that escrow account with what law firm is it?
I don't know that.
Duke, do you know?
If y'all do this deal, my firm would hold the money and depending on what happens.
And I'm
So
certainly not trying to throw you under
we
the
don't
bus.
charge fees for that.
You don't charge fees for holding
No,
that.
it's just an account. And y'all can pick whoever you want. We just put that in there because that's a sort of a neutral firm. So we'll give the money back to the county if that doesn't go forward, and we give it to, if y'all vote for this. I'm not suggesting you should or shouldn't, but just that's what happens. But we don't charge for that.
Okay, thank you. I think this whole thing began when we just didn't do this RFP properly or correctly. To me, it should have been 3 different things: one for dirt, one for the site for the C&D, and one for the site for the future transfer station. But we lumped it all together. I don't understand why we did that. And when you lump it all together, it's going to be almost impossible to find the right site. I know you say that we have it now on Mead Road, but I think we could have gotten better bids if we had split it up. And the dirt's the most important thing right now because we've got to cover the landfill every day. I think the dirt was the most important thing. We should, and I know there was dirt in other places, and I know you've said that it cost.
Commissioner Wynn, Commissioner Wynn, let me correct. Let me just correct you. We did put the bid out so that you could bid on 1, 2, or 3 component parts. You could bid on nothing but dirt. You could bid on nothing but the transfer station site, or you could bid on a C&D site, or you could bid on all 3, or any combination. That's the way we put it out.
But were they individual RFPs or were they all in one?
It was one RFP that offered
one RFP. So when people looked at it, they looked at it as one RFP. Don't get mad at me. We're trying to get this clarified. I think this should have been done separately. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry we didn't do it that way, but we ended up with multiple replies to this. Some offering transfer stations, some offering dirt, some offering this, that, or the other. So, Commissioner Jones, you've been very patient. I'm sorry. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This is a really complicated purchase to consider for me. As I've said before, I've learned a lot more about the garbage business than I ever wanted to know. But I've tried to talk to some people, experts in the field, because I've had several conversations from Carl, and he's a friend. He's an award-winning engineer, and I've had conversations with Guy Eberhard. He's also a friend, and Carl represents Eberhard in this transaction, obviously. But my clients are the taxpayers of Macon-Bibb County. I've talked with other engineers. I've talked with commissioners from other counties. I've had conversations with ADS, namely Jared Lovett. I've talked with business owners. Crown Candy, you left out of that description unintentionally, I'm sure, but they also have a candy business where they produce candy on Mead Road. I'm going to make 10 points here, and then somebody can answer whichever ones they want to. Some of them are points, some of them are questions. I'm not so sure all the numbers have been verified by our consultant. Maybe Kent can address that. The questions that I submitted, and I appreciate Keith Moffitt, our county manager, getting those answers, but we currently have 8 employees. We're budgeted for 11. The answer was employees are hard to find. Our equipment, which we have got a detailed list on, 50% of it is old in that it's 2010 or older. It said the question answered about leasing. It said we would be leasing equipment. I know that leasing equipment is very expensive. There was a question about an enterprise fund, and the answer was yes, and I think that's the way to go if in fact we get into this. The initial cost is $8.7 million plus $3 million for for the answer for roads, gas systems, building scales. So you're really looking at $12 million before you really get started. I asked about a transfer station, I'm really more positive on a transfer station than I am a C&D landfill. And then there was a question about liability, about the previous owner. Who knows what all's been dumped in there? It's been inert, we're told, and what I can gather, that's kind of like a C&D light. So I would want to have reports for the last 5 years that were made as to inspections and reports for the last 5 years. We're currently paying Armstrong World Industries at 4700 Broadway. We've made contributions to that settlement so far, $87,500 for what other people did on the land. That doesn't include legal fees. I've asked for that as well. So that concerns me, the liability. I really think there should be a liability clause in there that says the previous owner, the current owner, is responsible for something for so many years. We're not covered there. Another question, how much covert material would be required to close out the Walker landfill? I haven't seen that to my knowledge. What we're told is it's 30 years we have to monitor and maintain Walker landfill for 30 years, even after we close it, which is kind of mind-boggling. We could bid out the closure of Walker landfill and the contractor could include the dirt. That would be one way to bid it. And last, well, two other things. It kind of bothers me that we're paying for airspace. Houston County doesn't pay for airspace on anything. So I'm not sure why we should be paying for airspace. I can see it up to a point, but that's just, to me, that's kind of a vague determinant factor. How do you pay for airspace? And last but not least, the bidding process. And I've mentioned this before, and it has nothing to do with this purchase. Well, it has everything to do with this purchase, but it has everything to do with everything we purchase. We send out an RFP. Excuse me. We get 4 bids. We choose one that includes all 3 components. That's good. But we don't negotiate. And to me, and I know you've made the point before, Mayor, that it undermines the process, and I would have to respectfully disagree with you there. It's really the fair market. If I'm going to buy a car and I go to any car lot in Macon and the sticker price is $50,000, I'm certainly not going to say, okay, I'll give you $50,000. I'm going to negotiate. In my world, in real estate, if I'm representing a seller on his property, his and her property, and 3 offers come in at the same time, that's not so unusual in the last couple of years. We pick out, typically I would advise my client, well, we like this offer the best, let's counter this offer. We're not going to accept it just as they submitted it. We're going to counter that offer. If it doesn't work out, then we go to buyer prospect number 2. And I've talked to council about this. I've talked to Houston County about this, and they have a stipulation that says we reserve the right to negotiate. We're choosing you as our most likely. You've met the terms, and this is what you're offering, but we reserve the right to negotiate the terms. And without that, we're doing a great disservice, in my view, to the taxpayer. So that concludes my comments for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Do Kent or you or Carl want to respond to any of the questions or points raised by Commissioner Jones?
One thing I would say about I think something was brought up about paying for airspace. Airspace is a valuable commodity. And in order to get that airspace, whoever's developing the landfill has to invest a significant amount of money into that, which I would say increases the value of the property because the revenue that it can produce or the money that it can save.
As far as Kent, are you through right now?
Yeah.
As far as what is been in the inert landfill right now, we explained all that to EPD, and EPD says in your D&O plan you have to come up with a approvable way to dispose of any and all inert material in there that has not decomposed. So I don't think there's any in there, but if there is, we have a stipulation in there that we would have to, or the owner of the C&D would have to take that and dispose of it. If you had to, you can dispose of it in the C&D if it is C&D. If it's not C&D, which I don't think there's anything in there, but let's just say there is, then you have to take it and you have to put it in transfer station and send it to the MSW. And they were pretty clear about that, Mallory.
I just want to remind everyone real quick, if you're not speaking, can you please mute your microphone so we don't have too much extra background noise? Thank you.
Carl, if I may, aren't you required to file quarterly or semi-annually or annual reports with EPD?
Yes, in as far as the safety factor, you'll have monitoring wells all around a C&D landfill. So I think every month you have to do, was every quarter? It's quarterly. Every quarter you have to take samples and you have to send them off to make sure that all the levels are safe.
Nothing's been put in there.
And as a side note, every C&D we've ever done has never had a hit because it's concrete and wood and stuff like that. So yeah, you have to put in monitoring wells and you got to monitor them.
So
But that goes to the point. Yeah, that goes to the point of operation. Operate it smartly and correctly, and you don't have that problem.
Correct. That's correct.
Does Castile have a transfer station on Mead Road?
Does what?
He had Mike Castile has a transfer station under construction. To my knowledge, Commissioner Wynn, it is not open and operating yet, but it is right at the point where he can begin operating. He was putting in a scale house and scales, but he does have the transfer station itself already built for C&D material. Yes.
So with that being near completion, and we still have the option of taking C&D to Wolf Creek, Houston County, Story Road Transfer Station. There's a lot, and that will be another one to add to it once our landfill is closed. And I agree that C&D and our landfill and Walker landfill is the wrong thing to do, but we have other options to put where we can put our C&D that would not cost us having to spend this much money for the land to do this. I'm more in favor of a transfer station and just finding dirt elsewhere, get another bid on that. But I've just too many questions about why we're doing it this way.
Well, that's an excellent point, but that's the point that I think Carl Hofstadter was trying to make to you earlier on. If you go the transfer station route, then you automatically move your disposal cost up to $35 a ton approximately, which would be what you have to pay to transport it and then pay the tipping fee at the other end to get rid of it at somebody else's. So you go from $17 to $20 a ton to $35 a ton overnight.
Here goes this thing in there called negotiation. And I think that could be negotiable with a large community like Macon-Bibb County doing business with somebody. Those are figures you're using that are approximately what you think it could be. What I think we could negotiate that.
Carl, Kent, I'll leave that up to you. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Commissioner.
Yes, sir, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir. I think what we all are hearing is, I think sometimes when one commissioner seems like he or she may be taking the lead on something and ask questions, that sometimes mean that those same commissioners have those same questions. And I think we just heard it this morning. Both Commissioner Watkins and Commissioner Jones similarly have some of the same issues, questions, and or concerns that
Don't
should
do
be
Wynn
answered.
like that. She's right here with us. Don't do
Yeah,
Commissioner
yeah.
Wynn like that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
I'm
No,
with
no,
you
no,
too.
no. I'm saying no, and I would have to include Commissioner Wynn on that as well. So what I'm saying is, I think we all understand at this point that we do need a landfill, or we need to close the current landfill.
Right.
And this particular company met all three requirements that we were looking for. We're going to have to do this at some point, whether it's negotiations or what have you. I do think at some point we need to move forward with this, but we have to satisfy the concerns of our commissioners. If those concerns and or negotiations, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Hostella, can and should be met, I think we can possibly get this done. But we have got to answer the commission members' questions and understanding. Although this is money already set aside by the SPLOST, it is still just looked upon as taxpayers' dollars, and it is. So I think we can get this done. I think if we allow a committee of some sort, what I'm hearing, whether it's Commissioner Watkins, Commissioner Wynn, and Jones, to take the lead for this commission and get those questions answered, then I think we can probably move in a better setting with this. I don't know what our timeline, if we need another couple of weeks or so, and perhaps everybody's questions and input with those three commissioners, including them, and I would trust our three commissioners, along with the mayor's staff, Mr. Hostel, to go and get this done and bring it back to us, and let's move forward on it. And that's just my opinion. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Other questions, comments, or concerns? Commissioner Jones, I understand you're trying to, well, hold on. I understand Commissioner Jones was first and then Commissioner Allen.
Well, I'm going to defer to Commissioner Allen, and then I go behind him if that's okay.
Sure. Commissioner
Allen? If we do not have a D&C landfill, then where would we basically dispose of the materials, and who'd pay for it? And where would the funds come from for the disposal if we don't do it that way?
Well, I'll answer that. I mean, traditionally, it comes from user fees that you charge the citizens. That's where the money comes from, that you're going to have to pay to put it in a transfer station and then take it out of county. You have no choice, I guess, but to charge the user, the citizens of Macon-Bibb.
Okay.
Well, and I think what you're going to also find is a lot of it dumped illegally down a dark, well, right. But I mean, you just would compound that issue and that problem, Commissioner Wynn. I mean, if I've got to pay $35 a ton to tip it into a transfer station, as opposed to $15, $17, $19 a ton to dip it into a C&D landfill here in Bibb County, yeah, I may decide just to throw tires and this or that or the other, you know.
As I said, that $35 is negotiable if you're a good negotiator.
Carl, Kent, any idea about how negotiable $35 a ton is, tipping fee for C&D landfill?
Well, all I can say is you're going to pay, whether you build it yourself or whether somebody else builds it. They're going to charge you what it costs them to build it and what it costs them to operate it. So I would suggest that you get prices from some other people. You know, go ahead and do that. And so
this is part of what Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem was saying, that we need to have some more information. And that's where I am coming from. I think there are too concerns out there for us. Some people aren't addressing it, or some people aren't speaking out, but I think there are other concerns of people, or should be anyway, because this is taxpayer money.
I can tell you that that $35 a ton at the Alberta Road transfer station is as low as I've heard of at a transfer for disposal at a transfer station, and that is a very, very good price.
It could be higher. Should be higher. So you could hurt yourself.
What do we charge at Walker Road now?
$32.75.
We charge $32.75 now.
We need to up that for the length of the time it's still open then.
I agree.
Yep, absolutely.
What would we charge at it? What would be the recommended fee at a county owned the C&D landfill? What's that price? I assume would it still be $32.75, or would we?
What I would do, I would recommend a two-price structure. I would recommend charging $38 to $40, and then that allows you then to negotiate down with a higher volume disposer.
So that's what we would charge at a transfer station. What would we charge at a landfill?
What? Well, that, Kent, you want to answer? Or you want me to?
Well, I mean, I think we're looking at probably right around the $35 to $40 per ton mark.
Okay, so the price stays the same on our side.
That would allow us a little bit of room to negotiate with higher volume disposers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
All right, but see, this is Carl's whole point. The money that you would otherwise pay to somebody to transport it, you put in your pocket. And when I say your pocket, I mean you put it in the fund, the enterprise fund, to operate the landfill.
You say that, but I see us paying employees, buying excavators and new excavators, and having to deal with a water table and all types of new and innovative things, and having to pay retirement costs, and having to have a landfill closure account set up. And
then why don't you outsource all that? You buy and outsource. Why don't we do this?
Just ship the trash to Warner Robins or Castile so they deal with it? That would also.
Why don't we do this? If you would permit me, I think I can ask the people that have already approached me to come and make a presentation to you about them operating the C&D landfill.
Could we just talk about like maybe what it would be like? Could we have someone come in and make a presentation about what it would be for us to haul their trash to them and they deal with it? I think I understand that what's at stake at the C&D, but I would love to know more about the options of the transfer station as we talk about it, because I think me and several other commissioners see it as a viable thing. So,
Commissioner Jones has his hand up.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes, sir. If all the members of the commission have had a chance to speak, I'd like to make a motion to reject all the offers from the proposal and table it for now.
I second it.
We go back to and perhaps we can have a work session whereby all the members of the commission can be there along with Carl and Kent, anybody we need to hear from.
I second that.
I already seconded it. How could you second it?
Whatever.
Goodness. All right, so we have a motion to table and a second, and that's a non-debatable motion. And the motion, if I understood correctly, was just to table it. You said something about rejecting all bids, and that I don't think you meant that. You just meant table it to get more information, correct?
I would like to reject all bids and table it.
That puts you all the way back to scratch. You couldn't pick this back up. Why don't we just table this, Commissioner Jones?
Okay. Again, I have a real heartburn about the process where you have no negotiations. Houston County has a similar stipulation that I've mentioned to council, and they say certainly that's legal. We reserve the right to negotiate the terms.
Well, Commissioner Jones, from just a parliamentary perspective, do you want to, and it's up to what y'all want to do you want to table this particular contract, or do you want to reject this contract at this point in time for further discussion? One is not the same as the other. So if you table it, that's not debatable. And what that would mean is you're just delaying action, final action. It could be indefinitely delayed on this particular motion. And then you can talk and get information during that period of time. On the other hand, you have to, or you can reject it at this point in time. And,
You're telling me
so-
it has to be two separate motions.
Duke, hang on a second. Duke, if
Yeah.
we tabled it, we brought it back off the table, it would be the same same resolution we have now. So I think what I'm thinking about is just rejecting this, and we may come back with the same thing, but rejecting this now, getting the information that Commissioner Watkins was talking about, Commissioner Allen was talking about, different things that we need to look at and have presentations, and then we can come back and we may go back to this one. But I'd like to just say that let's reject this.
I would urge you not to reject it. If you reject it, you're rejecting not just this, you're rejecting all bids, and you go all the way back to scratch and have to start all over. And I think that would be an inappropriate.
So we want to be able to see option B. This is option A. We understand it's presented it, and we appreciate your due diligence and time in presenting it. And we've heard it, but we would like to see what option B or C is at this point. So whatever.
That's fine. So all you need to do is table this while we get that information.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
So you're saying it cannot be the same motion. Is that correct? Dude?
No, let me say, if y'all want, you don't, I'm not trying to get bogged down in parliamentary procedure, because I kind of know what you want, I think. What I'm hearing you want is more information for you to make a decision, either to reconsider this or reject it, or even renegotiate this or something else. You can do all of that with a motion to table. All this does is, it doesn't keep you from doing something else. It doesn't keep you from trying to renegotiate. It doesn't keep you from doing something completely different.
Yeah.
If you just table it, you don't have to start over. But if you want to start over at some point in the future, you can do that too. This just delays this to get more information about this whole process and whatever y'all want to feel like you need to have for the information you need to make decisions on this. So you don't have to reject it at this point to get what I'm hearing you want.
Okay, fair enough. I restate the motion. I simply want.
Hold on, Jones, if you may, Commissioner Jones, if you may. Yeah, before you do that motion, if you will allow others, if we have a point or whatever to make before we do that motion. So it cuts off everything.
That's why I raised the question.
Yeah, because I want to raise a point as well. Here is the thing that I'm looking for, y'all. This is Mayor Pro Tem Tillman. That I would say I have seen the questions written. I have seen the questions in an email form, and from everything that's being said today. Now, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Hostetler, those commission questions need to be answered in advance of this coming back, because the time frame that we're spending clearly is showing me that we are not appear to be responding to the questions written and email to the administration. So once this comes back and then we take a vote on it, we just need to move forward. I support moving forward with this, but I also respect and support the commission members wanting more additional information to their satisfactory, because this is becoming a contentious and a big deal for Macon-Bibb. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Commissioner Bivens?
I'm in favor of the motion to table without rejecting anything, because that'll still be on the option.
Yes,
that'll still be an option.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Allen?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, we're 90 days in before we have a new mayor and new board members. I would hope and suggest that this board would allow the new members and the new mayor to sit in on this meeting, since it's going to be placed in their pot also.
That's right. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. All right. So back to Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Back to Commissioner Jones.
Motion is to table.
And I second.
You got a second by Wynn and Allen. So we got a second and a third on the motion table. It's a non-debatable motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. It's tabled. Now, take note. October the 13th is the second Tuesday in October. I'm going to have us a work session on October the 13th. So put it down right now, a work session on October the 13th. And we're going to have the people come in to talk about a transfer station, to talk about operating our station. It's probably going to be a 2-3 hour meeting, work session on the 13th. So put that on your
Mr.
calendar,
Mayor,
please. I want y'all
Mr.
here.
Mayor, may I say this, Mr.
No,
Mayor?
I got Commissioner Wynn first, then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I'm hoping that we can have that work session in person if possible.
We'll try to schedule that way. We'll
If we
certainly
have to
see
put it
where.
in big chambers, we'll do it out there too and separate it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We'll try to do that. We'll try to do that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anything?
Can I say?
Yes,
Can I
sir.
say one thing?
Mr. Mayor. Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem. Go ahead.
No, Mr. Mayor, you are suggesting a work session, assuming that will respond to commissioners' questions and answers. I don't need the work session. I need the information to get to the commissioners. So what I'm suggesting is you reach out to those 3 commissioners and get their input on what they want. They may not need a work session. I don't need a work session. You're suggesting a work session for what?
Well,
to satisfy whom? Why we need a work session? Who asked for a work session? Based on what? I can vote today and support the initiative. I don't need a work session, but I'm respectfully suggested that we go on what the 3 commissioners was asking for. That's what I was saying.
You don't have to attend the work session. You don't have to attend the work session, Mayor Pro Tem.
You don't have to set it up. You don't have
yes,
to
I do. Yes, I do. I've had multiple requests.
I want it
all.
All right, that's fine.
Good. All right. So put that on your calendar, and that's the way we're going to do.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Just to kind of cap this, tell you where we are. I think I'm right about this. The contract that is presently with Eberhard, and I want to make sure everybody knows this. And I think tabling is fine. You've done that. You can have a work session on it. But with respect to this contract, I think the time at which there's a period of time after a contract is accepted that they have to keep it off the market. That is elapsed. So, to Commissioner Jones's point earlier, at some point, depending on what y'all decide to do, I just want to make sure that even though you table it, it doesn't mean at some point that Eberhard and the owners of the property, Mead Road Environmental 2, can at some point remarket it. So I just, I'm not trying to put any undue pressure on anybody, but I wanted to make sure everybody understood that.
We all need to move expeditiously, Duke. There's no doubt about that. We got a lot of projects that are dependent on this decision. So that's the way we're going to do it. We've got it tabled. So we're going to move on, and we'll do a work session for those that want to attend it on the second Tuesday in October. That takes us to the next item on our agenda, which is the Mid-City Square project. The Mid-City Square idea concept was included. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I'll be happy to meet with Valerie and Mallory. It kind of rhymes, but I'd be happy to meet with both of them separately together with Virgil. Be happy to do it. And Kent, probably need Kent there too.
I'll be happy to be there as well.
Carl, I appreciate that, but I think the whole group needs to hear this, not just the 3 of us. There are people not speaking forward, but I think there's still questions out there with others.
Well, I just meant before.
Well, okay.
But no, I need and Mallory, I need a list of those questions. Okay. And then Kent and I'll answer them. That's fair enough. Sorry.
Good. Thank you, Carl. Thank you
Thank
you very much. And Kent, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So moving on, the item number 3, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with Hughes, Good, O'Leary, and Ron Incorporated. And for those of you that don't recognize that, that's HGOR that does a lot of this design work, in the amount of $29,000 to provide master planning services for the Mid-City Square project. to be paid from the Second Street tax allocation fund. So this isn't coming out of the general fund. This isn't this out of the other. This is the increment that we have realized, tax money that we've realized in the Second Street corridor. We need a concept and a design for the Second Street, for the Mid-City Square concept. If we had HGOR to help us with that, I think it would really attract and really confirm the interest of a lot of developers that have looked at it and want to see it move forward. So we're asking for your permission to spend $29,000 out of the tax allocation district proceeds to hire HGOR and let them help us design and put up a vision for Mid-City Square.
Well, Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Wynn.
Yes, sir. Please tell me what Mid-City Square is and where it is.
Mid-City Square is the proposal at the intersection of 2nd Street and Pine Street.
Okay.
It was suggested that we need a quote unquote oasis of green in the middle of an ocean of asphalt. We need something similar to a median park, and we've got designed, early preliminary ideas about how to do that, and put L-shaped buildings around the perimeter at the back. But that was an early design sort of an idea, but it would catalyze or and spark interest in the development of South Downtown.
And we need to spend almost $30,000 on this?
Yes, ma'am. HGOR has done a lot of work for us before. They have given us the concept for Rosa Parks Square. They've given us a concept for Central City Commons. And just when you see those things, it sparks interest and enthusiasm by developers who see kind of catch the vision. So yes, ma'am, I think it would be money well spent, and I think it would help for them to come in and do a little listening session with us and kind of see what ideas we have and incorporate those.
In their current vision, and
I thought so too. 2nd Street, I thought there was a vision already.
There's a concept.
There's no picture of it.
There are some sketches that were done early on, but I don't think they're realistic. But there are some sketches. I really think y'all, it's not money out of the general fund. It's money out of this tax allocation district fund. I promise you, it will bear fruit. I promise you, it will bear fruit.
And you'll pay us back if it doesn't.
No. But I really am. I'm asking for your consideration on this. It's a small step, but I really think that it will do a lot to galvanize and strengthen what we're trying to do.
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Can I get a second? Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
You were so nervous. You were supposed to ask any further discussion.
Well, you wanted to get it through.
Yeah. So, any opposed?
Yes, no, I'm opposed.
Got one no, but the ayes have it, and you'll be proud of it when you get it. Thank you very much. But that's got to come. That's got to come up next week too. So y'all give me one more time next week to vote on it finally.
Well, let me say, I think this is the final piece of the puzzle to the downtown project that you have spearheaded for probably 13 years, and so maybe this is going to be your final outpiece going.
Maybe so.
Congratulations.
Maybe so, Mayor Pro Tem. That's great. Okay, so the resolution that's approved, and it'll be brought up next week for final adoption at the next week meeting. All right, next we need to go into executive session, unfortunately, for consultation with the county attorney or other legal counsel to discuss pending or potential litigation, settlement, claims, administrative proceedings, and other judicial actions. I guess that was the only one. No property, and no personnel. So it's just pending litigation.
Mr. Mayor, Rachel here. Earlier you had mentioned having EMA Director Spencer Hawkins give us an update. He is on the call. Is that something you would want to do now or
No,
later?
just let me go on into executive session. We'll let him give us a kind of a written report or send out an email about where we are with COVID statistics.
And is there anyone who is supposed to stay in this meeting who is not a commissioner or elected official?
Yes. Terry that done Terry
Excellent.
Taylor. Right. She needs to stay in along with other attorneys. And we've also got, I think we've still got the commissioners elect and mayor elect on the line too. So that they would be in. So can I get did I get a motion to go into executive session? I need a motion to go into executive session by Allen. Second. By Schlesinger. All in favor of going into executive session to discuss litigation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. We're in executive session. We are back in open session now. Following our executive session, no further action needs to be taken at committee of the whole. So we have reached the end of our agenda, and we'll move on now to the Operations and Finance Committee. And Chairman Watkins, if you are there and available, I'll let you take over at this point and conduct the Operations and Finance Committee meeting.
All right, thank you, sir. Got somewhat of a brief agenda, and there have been some changes in the agenda based on the previous meeting, results of the previous meeting. But if we can start with the approval of the September 8th minutes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the minutes as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Next on the agenda are the monthly financial updates. And Mr. Lucci is on the call?
Yes.
Yes.
Rachel, did you receive my email?
I have it. It's opening right now.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll let you jump into it. I know we're just a few months in.
Right. These are the statements for August. She'll be pulling those up shortly. Right now, we are running about $1 million behind in revenue compared to the prior year. That is basically, I think, due to what we saw was a shortfall in last month's local option sales tax. However, to give an update to the group, we did receive a phone call from the Department of Revenue saying that some of the adjustments that they made were for a period of time. So hopefully when we receive the local option sales tax in the next week to 10 days, we will see that that was not what we thought possibly could have been an indication that we would see a lower number each month.
I felt like we kind of started in the middle of the conversation for some, because me and you've been talking via email about this. But we're talking about the local option sales tax, that 2.1 number. Usually it would have been a 2.7, 2.8 type number.
Last year we had received about 2.9 by this point, so about $800,000 different.
And I know one of the things that happened was with that number, there was like a $500,000. It mentioned audit that they took out of us.
Right. It was actually a little bit larger than that. I don't have the exact number, but it makes up for almost this difference. And within a couple days of receiving those receipts for that month, we did receive a phone call, as did probably a lot of the governments, to say that the adjustments that they were making were for a period of time, so that people would know that those, might not be indicative of what we may receive this month. Because ultimately, when you don't know what those numbers are, you could interpret that you may see a significant decrease in the future months. But that was good news. We will see how that pans out when we receive the sales tax in the next 10 days for the prior month. And hopefully
timing on that couldn't have been better, right?
Right. So, and as soon as we get those, and I'm looking at the calendar, I'm sorry, we'll I can send something to the mayor and he can send something out to the group like he did last month, so we can kind of let y'all know. So we don't have to wait a full 30 days to see what that number is. But until we get it, hopefully it'll be the same or close to the same as, as last year's written number, which would kind of put us back on track.
Right. And Christy, when you send that to me, just go ahead and copy all of the commissioners on it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that's as far as revenue, that's really the only thing that we're watching at this point. Some of our other, revenues are still trending within a reasonable number from the prior year. So we'll keep an eye on that. Like you said, we're so new into this year that it is kind of hard to read a lot of the factors, but we're watching those each month and on a weekly basis to make sure, that we don't have, any kind of indication that something's decreasing significantly.
So,
Now,
Mr. Chair. Mr.
Yes.
Chair. So, Christy, those numbers, when we get the final numbers, they should improve what we've got here over what we've got here. You anticipate that?
Well,
or not?
No. Okay. Two things. They still made that adjustment. Okay. So they're not going to go back and increase last month's number. We're just hoping that next month's number is in line with what we would have expected to receive in the same month of a prior year, that it's a good number, but we still are going to take a hit for those adjustments that they made. So we're going to have to see an increase to make up for those adjustments, but worse, best case scenario is we see that start to trend the same as prior year.
Okay.
But if they're not, unless we in the next month see it increase $1 million over the prior year, it may take a few months to make up this adjustment because they still made the adjustments. Mm-hmm. The good news is it didn't apply to that month's sales tax, meaning people weren't out spending where we would receive a number. It was an adjustment. So that was the good news, but they still did make the adjustment. So it was still a decrease for that month, but it was just good news because it was for over a period of time and it didn't indicate that sales were down.
But you should get the number for this past month.
Usually by the 28th.
Okay.
So yeah, we're still going to see, this number was still lower, but the explanation for it was much better than what we had hoped or could have hoped for. Okay. All right. So going down into the expenses, everybody's pretty much in line. We only have a few departments that are a little bit over. Board of Elections is self-explanatory. They're purchasing a lot of their needs up front for this year because of the election. So that one makes sense. IT is always a little bit higher at this part of the year because they're paying for some of their software maintenance contracts. Same thing for risk management. Our insurance contracts are paid up front. We make this is normally higher for risk management. I do have to speak to them because I think like one of the premiums did increase. So we may be needing a supplemental for them because of it might have been for some cybersecurity or some additional piece of an insurance policy, but I'm going to check on that and get back to you. But they're normally a little bit higher, but they still may have exceeded a number that they had anticipated. So I'm going to check on that one. Clerk of Superior Court, they just had some small purchases that they made up front. They're barely over the number, which was, 21%. What was the next one? I'm sorry. State Court Solicitor, they were just a little bit higher. They'd already purchased some contracted services and supplies up front. And the Department 5100 for health is we paid the Navicent their $50,000 in the lump sum, which kind of puts them ahead of where they would be. But all of these I anticipate will level out as they've done in past years. But we'll continue to watch them. Yeah, were there any other questions on that?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to our first item
Mr.
of
Chairman.
action business. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if Christie's still there, I'd like to mention something that the committee and Christie can hear. I just want to call attention to the Land Bank Authority. I think there are funds that the county agreed to with the Land Bank Authority, and I hope we don't let that slide.
How is that going? We're paying out all our member organizations and agencies, I assume. Is there a shortage or are we behind with the land bank?
Kind of behind on a couple of payments.
See, Ms. Moore had her hand up.
We are going to be bringing to you a amendment to the blight bonds because Commissioner Bivens is correct. There is one more payment of $75,000 due to the land bank, but that was not appropriated. So we're going to bring it in and clean up all the little balances so that we can take care of that bill for the land bank.
All right, thank you.
Cool. All right. So our next item of business is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a professional service agreement with Preston Geotechnical Consultants in the amount of $7,890 for the testing of construction materials and soil at Lake Tobosoffke Ranger Station to be paid from the 2018 SPLOST Fund Recreation. You have a motion for discussion?
So moved.
A motion and a second.
Whatever.
Yeah, okay.
He might.
It's sponsored by Mayor Rickard, who's speaking to the ranger station testing.
Well, I can start this off. They ended up with some bad dirt, as I understand it, soft soil. And before they could pour the foundation for this new ranger station, they had to get the testing done to be sure that it, wouldn't settle. Kind of, that's my understanding. Michael, anybody, or Dr. Moffitt, can you help me with that?
Clay's on the line.
Oh, good. He's the one with the answer. Clay, help me.
Yes, sir. We did have some bad soil, but this is primarily for them testing concrete. They come out and do materials testing. We do a geotechnical contract for every project, but they test everything we put out there. So this is just to get them, be able to pay them to do the work that we ask them to do.
But don't we, that wasn't included in the contract already?
Ms. Lucas, we always, the county contracts with the testing services. We do not think it's a smart idea for the contractor to test with the testing services, because we want them to report to us, not to the contractor. That way we can review the material as it comes in rather than the contractor being the one that reviews. So historically, I mean, for the last 7 or 8 years, we've tested directly with the contracting services.
Okay, that's good, but we've already approved the contract for the construction, haven't we?
That is correct.
So why are we so late on this? I don't know A from Z on this. I'm just asking for information.
It was submitted some time ago, and it's just taken a while to get through the process with the county. But it was we've had this for 45 days or so, I guess, from Preston Testing, the quote to do the work. And they've been doing the work. They just haven't invoiced us yet because they don't have a PO.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, further discussion?
Maybe you can send that bad dirt over to the landfill.
There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a professional agreement with Triscapes in the amount of $1.5 million for the construction of a new ball field complex at Carolyn Creighton Park to be paid from the 2018 SPLOST proceeds. And this is sponsored by what, Mayor Ricker? Are Clay's available to speak?
Correct. It's sponsored by me, and this is for the ball fields down at Carolyn Creighton Park, refurbishing the ball fields. Clay can give you more details on that.
Which ball fields?
Yeah, hopefully all of them.
It's the construction of a new ball field, so those are existing ball fields in the picture.
Yeah, that's why I want to know what this is. New ball field complex.
Of a new
Right,
ball field.
This is
complex.
Michelle. I know Clay's there with you to explain this probably more fully, but if you look at the contracts
Could you speak up a little bit?
that are attached, it actually refers to it as a softball field complex, and it's almost like start to finish, but I'm sure Clay can explain it a little better than I can as far as the design.
If I make complex.
Is it a new complex? That's what I'm asking.
Clay, I thought it was the existing ball fields.
That's what I'm saying. Which ball
All
field?
right. Oh, this is exciting. Commissioner Wynn asked the question whether or not it was a new ball field, and I'll give the floor to either Clay or someone else from the administration to speak, and then I think Commissioner Tillman may have a question after that.
Commissioner, if I may, we have to date, we have completed at the existing softball complex, the 6 softball fields that are down there. We have put in a new concession stand in the middle. We have put up, y'all have bought and paid for new lighting down there. This is to strip the existing grass, level it, address some drainage issues, new sod, new fencing, new dugouts, new bleachers, new bleacher covers, and a new primary entrance to the facility, new sidewalks too.
So this is the existing complex, but you're just doing new stuff to it, right? It's not
That
a
is
new
correct.
complex.
We are totally refurbishing the existing complex.
So shouldn't it say that instead of it being a new complex? Because
It's the captioning the best, the devil's in the details.
Yeah, there you go. Because I thought we were building a new complex when I saw this. So it's not really new. It's just for refurbishing what we have.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Reword it.
Yes, thank you. Just put refurbish existing complex.
And I know I said Commissioner Tillman was next, and I think I heard Commissioner Lucas. Let me switch I don't have it on gallery view. I'm sorry. And I see Mayor Rickard as well.
He's the commissioner too.
Sorry.
I'm soon to be Joe Citizen.
But like I said, I did. If Commissioner Tillman had something, I'd mention him a lot.
Yeah, I just want to ask Clay, what's the time frame? Is it the regular 145 days, 180 days? What do you see as a time frame to finishing up?
I don't. Hold on just a second, Commissioner. I think I have that right here.
Because I know we've already missed a major tournament that was an annual tournament that we normally have, and so I guess that's going to be the important part to me, and I'm excited about this. But yeah, I just need to be able to share with those that are interested a time frame.
I believe that time frame is 140 days, but just a second, I have to pull up the contract on board docs.
Okay, and you can let me know later, but it's just good to know, and I just say I look forward to seeing the completion of this, because I mean, I'm just interested in see how we're going to address some of these muddy issues, and if you can, Clay, is the sod going to address it? Because I mean, some of those fields have been so terrible, and I think that's one of the major things that I know we've been trying to just correct.
Yeah.
If I make one of the biggest issue down there is it's just flat, real flat. And so what we're doing is we're laser grading the fields to crown the fields in the middle slightly and push the drainage into new storm drainage that we're putting in out there. It will not address the issues on the track. We will help some of that, but we will not be able to address the water that sits on the old walking track. But the fields themselves, we will be able to address all the drainage on the fields and those areas directly around the fields. We've got new We've got 190 feet of new storm pipe and 3 new storm inlets. And we're also cleaning out the storm inlets that are there now. But by pushing the water off the fields into what I will call the pedestrian areas, we'll be able to address the water on the fields.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Rickard.
I wonder if it would be appropriate, Clay, to ask about a change order for this contract to help the right field situation in Luther Williams Field.
I guess I have a couple of things to say about that, Mayor. The Luther Williams Field issue is a direct result of the drainage off the backside of that, which goes through the railroad right-of-way back there. So every time a beaver builds a dam, which he does regularly, and we've trapped beavers back there, it causes that backup. But the problem is that the drainage off the back of Luther Williams goes through that right-of-way, and the Public Works has to get back in there and break up the dam. But the issue is not just the beavers. The issue is the drainage all the way through that area, down through the old Burns Brick area. It's just an overgrown, filled in drainage ditch. And so when we get the water like we got, that causes that problem. We can't do anything to Luther Williams Field itself without doing something to the entire field, because you can't just raise that area in right field because it affects everything else on the field and drainage wise. So if we're going to address the drainage on Luther Williams, we've got to address what happens outside the field areas.
So I gather this sounds a separate project.
In my opinion, it is, sir. And I think we've got to get permission. Every time they go back and do anything with that area, they've got to get permission from the railroad to access the railroad right of way. And so this is a much larger issue. We've really got to go several hundred yards from and cross Lower Poplar Street and deal with the drainage back through that area before we really be able to address Luther Williams Field.
Wow, I think that Luther Williams right field thing's been a problem since Dave Justice warmed up over there. That's old Megan Braves. No telling how much we done spent trying to, like you say, what we've been fighting with beavers for about 2 decades, I guess.
Well, we in the last 8 months, I guess, we hired a trapper. The county hired a trapper for $50 a beaver, and I think he caught 13 beavers and muskrats back there, and didn't begin to address the question.
Oh, where'd you put them?
I can't answer that question.
Interesting.
They were relocated.
Oh, yeah, heard that.
Oh,
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
We did bid this out, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
People responded.
If I may, we got, just 1 second, we got one.
I know we sent it to like 800 companies and only 1 responded. I'm sure.
No, we had eight responding companies. 1, 2, 3 of them are local. 2 were not. The winning bid was actually about $400,000 cheaper than the next closest bid. I have done extensive research on this company, and they are from the Atlanta area, and they've done about 170 complexes from South Tennessee to Griffin. And so all they do are ball fields, not just softball fields, but football fields or soccer fields or lacrosse fields or whatever. But they sent me a list, and I called at least 5, I think it was 5 or more of their people they've done business with, other locations, mostly municipalities, who said they did fantastic work.
So they're $400,000 less than the closest bidder, but they're still including all the right work, correct? The necessary work.
That is correct, yes. And the reason they're so much cheaper is they do all the work in-house as opposed to getting subcontractors to do the work. Okay. They have all their own equipment. They'll bring down multiple pieces of equipment and bring their folks down here and do the work themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So I know you, and the mayor mentioned the phrase change order earlier. I guess there are two pieces that concern me in Central City Park. I was down there recently, and there's a small lake in the middle of the park, and then there's a bridge that's been there for a long time. I know with phase one, we spent millions of dollars, if not more. Now we're about to spend another million. Why are we not like repairing that bridge? It's completely closed and boarded up.
It is
doing a fountain.
There are, just one second, let me pull a document. We're going to have to come to you for a timeline adjustment to move money forward to complete this work and the work that needs to happen out there. And I'm looking for my document real quick. I was not made aware until yesterday. I'd forgotten that this was not on the, had not been appropriated yet. But there is about $1.5 million remaining at Luke. I'm sorry, one second. I'm looking at the wrong line. Yeah, there's about $1.5 million remaining, plus what's there now, which is about $800,000. So we got about $2.4 million. We need to repair the bridge at the pond. I've gotten with Robert about that. Addressed Miss Lucas's question about a fountain there, but also the two, what they call the Olmsted buildings at the front where the roofs have caved in.
Yeah.
I did not want to, and this is a question that, I mean, you hired me to keep an eye on things. And what I didn't want to do was to commit to doing all of these things until we took care of the issues that have been most pressing first. Because the bid came in where it did, we're going to have money available to do those things, the other things we need in the park. I can't address the ponding in the park. It's just low. And again, there's no fall in that park. We've known that from the beginning. Moving water anywhere in that park is virtually impossible. In fact, to give you an example, there is less than 3 inches of fall from the high point of those softball fields to the low point of the softball fields. That's why the water doesn't go anywhere. So we're gonna address that by bringing dirt in and crowning those. To address the drainage in the entire park would require some more storm drainage work. And we can look at that if you'd like, but it would be an extensive proposition.
I get what you're saying. It's just and then does it sit in the basin as well? Because I know once you're in there, it seems like you're surrounded by like hills of the.
Well, the problem, Commissioner, is that the water table is so high there, which means that if I dig a hole 4 feet deep, I hit water. So there's no place for the water to go. There's no place. And when the water table is full, after a big old rain like we just had, and it's like a sink. The sink was full. There wasn't any place for that water to go. Once the water table recedes some, then the water will drain. But until then, it just doesn't happen.
Okay. All right. Further questions on updates to now known Carolyn Creighton Park?
Mr. Chair, I've said for a long time that I think a fountain of some sort in the center of that park would be really, really nice. I don't know whether, that fits into what can be done, what's already planned. Maybe companies could help to sponsor it or whatever. But I've mentioned a number of times that as you drive down Victory Drive in Savannah, those of you who've been down there and you see the park, Daffin Park, over to the right on Victory Drive as you're going out toward the beach, there are two beautiful fountains out there. Now, we probably would not be able to have one as large as even one of those, but I just think a water feature, a fountain feature in the center of that park with everything else that's down there would be just really, really neat. And I know that there's a way of getting one in there. So I would just like for us to explore that and be serious about it, because I think it really would be neat down
there. Yeah. I like the fountain.
Move to approve.
You have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Oh,
Does
I
that
guess the last,
include a
well, we-
fountain?
and last question
No, I
before I
guess
go.
not.
The train, the Benny Scott train.
Yeah.
Are you the point person on that, Clay, or who's that assigned to figure out?
That's me, sir, and I'm scheduling a meeting on Thursday morning to talk to Robert Walker and Rob Riles and Michael McNeil to get it going and see what we need to do. We've had it tested. Next is to find the company to come out and do the estimate for the
sandblasting,
cleaning it. What's the proper term?
Sandblasting.
Clay, what you talk? It need to be sandblasted, I believe you told me.
Sandblasted and stripped.
Strip. That's it. So we're working.
I ain't no delegation specialist, but Clay's right there.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it. Let me answer Commissioner Tillman's question real quick. The contract calls for the work to be completed in 150 calendar days from the date of the issuance of the notice to proceed.
All right, good. So here we go. Item C, contract. No, I'm sorry. Item B, we're still on the 1.5 million with Triscapes Incorporated for improvements to Carolyn Creighton Park. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item C is a resolution to execute a change order for a contract between Small Rental Stewart and Associates in the amount of $123,800 for additional engineering services for the Macon City Auditorium renovation project. And this is also to be paid from the 2018 SPLOST funds. Do I have a motion for the approval and discussion?
So moved.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Mayor
Again.
Rickard or Clay or who's up?
Can I ask what this additional service is, please, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Commissioners, Smallwood, y'all have contracted with to do the renovations or do the design for the renovations of the Macon City Auditorium. Once they got in and they've made a presentation to you and showed you what the ideas are for it. Pardon me?
I said it was good. It was a good presentation. They had glass and everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
One of the things we're having to address is a 100-year-old structure. They want to ensure two things. One is the structural integrity of the steel that's in there. There has been questions raised in the past about the balcony strength of the steel and whether it's really sufficient to hold people in the balcony. One is the structural integrity to be able to do the new services that they want to do for the lighting and the sound for permanently installing those things. So we need to test the roof steel. They also want to test the concrete. So this is new. That what they'll do is they'll come in an X-ray, basically do an X-ray of the building that'll allow them to do some radar penetrating type testing of the materials that are there to make sure that all that's strong enough to support what they're proposing.
So what happens if it's not reading steel?
Then we start from the beginning and start over. But I think everybody thinks it's fine, but they just want to insure it. So before we do any work, we just want to make sure what's there is good.
All right.
Hasn't that been done before? Hasn't that testing been done before when we appropriated money previously for the auditorium? Seems like I've heard this before.
We tested for water penetration in the basement, and we did testing of the roof, but not the steel holding the roof.
Okay, so
last time they used X-ray, this time they want to use the MRI technology.
Basically,
I understand.
It's a
I just worried that we're having folks to come in, and I know people provide all of these different services, but a lot of times we get a duplication of some of the stuff. We pay 2 or 3 times for things that tell us what local folks already know and can tell us. But I mean, I'm not an expert, so if y'all think that this is needed, then I'll support it. But this just sounds so familiar.
We've not done this particular type of testing of the stuff that's hidden behind everything that's there. I'm sorry, Commissioner. I wish I could tell you we had.
Okay.
There's a company that comes out of Charlotte, I believe, that does this penetrating radar of these materials, and that's what they want to do.
All right. Well.
All right. All right. Further questions, comments, concerns? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion carries. Item D is a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept a health promotion and well-being grant from the ACC Group Health Benefit Program in the amount of $15,000. What y'all plan on doing with the grant? Is there already a plan?
Yeah, I want to know too.
There's a motion and a second for approval. But yeah, I was asking the plans for the dollars. I don't know.
Mr. Moffitt.
Actually, this is Michelle again. It's actually a grant that's administered through the HR department, and it goes for a lot of the wellness programming that they do each year. We've been receiving this same grant for a number of years now. And it's actually designated in two separate parts, but it goes towards the programming through HR for the wellness program.
That's like the cooking classes and
right.
I
think that's part of it. And then there's also like like a campaign type of component to it, messaging component.
Oh yeah, because it's supposed to be getting everybody as a campaign against diabetes. Trying to stamp that out. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Items E and F have been removed. And that moves us to item 4A, the discussion of solid waste fees. And I know this has been on, well, Commissioner Bivens is bringing this to our attention again. We've discussed it, I think, well, maybe a couple years ago, but we have a citizen who I think is making a valid request, and I say it's got, and I give the floor to Commissioner Bivens to explain a little bit better.
One of the reasons I wanted to bring this up is because this lady, I don't know, she's about 90 years old, I think, and she was talking about, and I think everybody got a copy of her letter, but she was talking about how much problem it is for her, to try to pay some of these things out of her, income, which doesn't change or go up, basically. And one time before, it seems we talked about giving some kind of a break to seniors. And I want to kind of take that up and see what everybody thought. And this was basically for discussion. And I don't know if anybody want to come to a conclusion today, but we like for at least everybody to give it some thought and maybe have a short discussion on it now.
Well, Mr. Chairman, may I chime in?
Yes, please.
If I recall the letter correctly, she was talking about going up on her taxes, and we wrote her a letter back and explained to her that we hadn't gone up on the millage rate. It was the same, but if her valuation had changed and gone up, she needed to take that up with the tax assessor's office, and we gave her the phone number where she could call and contest the value next year, and say that it needed to be lower. There was one other thing, and there is, to my recollection, and I really need some help on this, but I think there is an exclusion from certain taxes and fees for senior citizens but I think that is the Board of Education. You get rid of some of your property taxes on the Board of Education. But we made that known to her as well. But as far as just forgiving taxes, that's a gratuity just that we can't do, and we tried to explain that to her. So that's just kind of the way we handled that complaint.
And well, maybe I'm not reading about the same thing, but I recall it was a conversation about the garbage fees is what I thought that we were discussing, that she was saying that there was a vacant property that she owned and had been vacant for some time and wanted some consideration and not paying the garbage fees since she wasn't collecting or had a trash can.
I think that was a separate letter, but you're right. There was a letter that from somebody that was an elderly female that wanted her rental property. You know, so it wasn't even a homeowner of that. It was rental property, and wanted the fees waived.
And so, get me right, Commissioner Bivens. What are you discussing here? I guess we're talking about.
Okay, the last thing you mentioned, that's also part of her discussion about the rental. Now, I talked to Michael about this. He explained to me why we decided, you know, not to go down every time somebody said an apartment was vacant. I believe because we had a high percentage of people that if it was vacant, you waive it, and then if they put somebody in it, they didn't contact you back to tell you that they had a tenant. And so I explained that to her, and I also explained to her about the taxes, that her taxes actually weren't going up, just as the mayor said just now. So she's got that explanation a couple of times. I think what it is now is whether or not anybody wants to give any consideration to people of a certain age when they want to pay garbage taxes. As a discussion, not making any decision now, but you know, I thought it'd be good if everybody think about it.
So and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, don't we have a process for waiving based upon income and other vulnerabilities, or am I mistaken?
Right, that's correct, Commissioner. I just wanted to go through that real quick. So we have 3 exceptions for the garbage fees in our code right now. In section 22-22, anyone that is, if the property owner has income below the federal poverty guidelines for a service year, then they can be exempted by submitting an annual application to our solid waste department. Or if they've been rated 100% disabled by either the Social Security Administration or the Veterans Affairs Department, then they can be exempted from the solid waste fees. And that's an annual application. And then the third exception we have is if a property is designated as uninhabitable, and that's something that our building inspectors will go out and they'll actually look at the premises and they'll say if it's uninhabitable or not, then it's removed from it's exempt from billing if it's uninhabitable. So as far as I can tell, I'm looking through the code right now, but I believe those are the 3 exceptions we have for solid waste fees.
And it seems like in this situation, at least 2 would apply.
If she's below the poverty threshold, then she's eligible for an exemption, but you have to actually go and apply for it. So if you know she has mobility issues or something like that, it may just be that she wasn't able to submit an application. I don't know the specifics of her circumstance, but it is something you have to do every year.
She may not be aware, so I can call that to her attention and she can check that out. And then the disabled, I mean, I haven't seen her in a long time, so I don't know if she's disabled or not, but I'll mention these exceptions to her and, you know, and let her know, because I didn't try to give her the impression that we were going to change anything. I just told her we would discuss it and try to see if there was anything that could be done.
Also, if I may add, Commissioner Bivens, being a senior, her garbage fees are different, are paid differently. And this was one of the things I think Commissioner Bivens and I went back because I think we reconsidered some stuff on these, the way people were paying garbage fees with multiple properties and rental properties. If you are a senior, you don't have to pay it all in once. I think you can make payments. You can make monthly payments as a senior. That was different as well. But I do think that this would probably be one of those things we do need to talk to the Board of Education and maybe, probably the Board of Education. I was going to bring the local delegation in, but this is not one they would tackle. But I would think after a certain age of a person, especially if they don't have children in school, and a lot of people don't have children in school, but maybe there needs to be a way, and I think the tax assessor's office is trying to be creative and come up with ways to further help citizens. But that may be one of them. I mean, you know, after you reach a certain retirement age and you don't have children in school.
No,
I just
no,
don't.
no.
I mean, no, what? I mean, just help me out. I'm just saying. So if y'all don't think that, go ahead. I'll yield.
That'd be a huge
Yeah, I
problem.
heard someone cutting them off. What's going on? Who's next?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
This is a good point to make. There are some exceptions out there that our citizens obviously don't know about because Commissioner Bivens would have already relayed that to her. So we somehow need to let our citizens know that those exceptions are out there. I'm sure there are a lot of other people that this could apply to that it would help. I'm not sure how we communicate that to them, but some way, somehow we should try to do that.
Well, this particular citizen, I mean, I'm going to let her know about these exceptions. You know, and like I said, I just mentioned that.
Yeah,
we were
I
gonna have
know.
this-
I just wish we had some way to communicate to them that she already knew this. You know, you're going to do that now, but there's a lot of other people that this probably would apply to that don't know either. I don't know how to get this message out though.
Yeah. We can think about that and work on
Chris
it.
Floor, PR somewhere.
Yeah, somehow.
Follow up. Anything else on this issue?
Yeah.
Hey, Patsy.
Yeah, I think this
If
kind
something else, yeah, go ahead.
I think this kind of covers it for me. So I'll call her and I'll tell her this, and you know, and because I know the problem with this is we have a lot of seniors, and if you made exceptions and didn't charge, that's a huge chunk of the income when we're paying somebody to, you know, collect garbage fees and stuff like that. So. But I'll tell her about these exceptions because I wasn't aware.
All right. Anything else for the agenda? Because that's everything I had. If not, we are adjourned. I turn this back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Fine, and then you're the last committee meeting scheduled for today. So unless there's a point of personal privilege by any commissioner,
Mr. Mayor, not a point of privilege.
There is an agenda item that was taken off, Mr. Mayor. I want to raise.
All right, but I had a question too.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah. Where are we standing on the pay scale study? I talked to Dr. Duhart and Dr. Moffitt last week, and they said there would be some things finished by last Friday. And we've been put off. I need, and Dr. Duhart said that they were going through a last compare. They had been given the study, but she wanted to do a comparison and see why the numbers were what they were for each position. She was doing a comparison study. I thought that's what the pay scale study did for us. They did the study. Why are we having to do a comparison study? So where are we on that?
Mr. Mayor?
Dr. Moffitt.
Yeah, and please, my apologies. In no time I want anybody to feel like they've been put off. I've always said, commissioners, I would have something in your hand the first week of October. So we are trying, I'm waiting now for the final, well, not final, but the draft document from the company that I can distribute to you, which is in the form of what y'all saw from the Athens study. That's what I told that y'all liked that presentation. So I told her to put it in that format. When Ms. Duhart said that we're reviewing the numbers, we are internally tweaking some of the numbers based on some of our comparisons of what we're looking at from studies around the state with DCA and things of that nature, so we can present you all that information. So hopefully I can have it to you as soon as I get it in my hand. I will be distributing it to the commissioners and the department heads for further review.
Well,
we are right on the schedule that I told you before.
1st of October is next week.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And I'll go back, Mr. Mayor. I have a commissioner. I had a pending resolution for well over a month. Several commissioners have expressed meeting back at Government Center that our space was big enough. Other municipalities are meeting. I did a resolution asking for plexiglass to be installed at commission horseshoes and in front of the lower level seating. And Mr. Mayor, I'm just understanding that you asked or you pulled my resolution. And maybe you can just explain to myself and commissioners that's trying to get back to City Hall why the resolution was pulled, and can we bring the resolution forth to the committee, because there are several members that have expressed getting back to work. I've shared that plexiglass is installed at drive-through windows at grocery stores. We're still doing business, and so plexiglass would, I think, be appropriate if we installed and used the CARES Act funding, is what I propose. And so where are we on that? And I can't get the resolution because you actually removed my resolution, sir.
I'm gonna get Rachel to turn her camera around so that rather than looking at her, she can. But you're blocking, Mayor Pro Tem. I can't get you off my screen. Why can I not get you off my screen?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Well, why are you figuring that out? You know, I just want to express a personal point of view. I'm in a situation right now where I prefer not to meet, meetings in person. That's just my personal point of view, while circumstances are as they are. I just want to express that. So whatever the board decides, that's.
Right. I was trying to get Rachel, and I'm not sure that it's coming up, Rachel. Huh? It is? Well, I don't know why I'm not saying it. But anyway, can y'all see the plexiglass that has been installed?
No.
Rachel?
All I see is you.
Yeah.
Well, all I see is you, but Rachel says
all
that
I see is
You have to change your view from gallery view, from speaker view to gallery view.
Yeah.
Or swipe on your screen so you can see the different people. But what I'm showing right here is the.
I see it right there and there.
Plexiglass that's between.
Well, yeah, you have to look for Rachel Gamble on your screen.
Yeah.
So in gallery view, swipe to the right and get to Rachel. And now rather than looking at Rachel, you're actually looking at the plexiglass panels that have been installed between commission seats, or most of them, not all of them, but between most of them. So that's what she's trying to show you, but it doesn't come across very well. But next time you're in the vicinity, you can drop by and see there probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 panels that have been installed. There's still none up here on the podium where I sit, between me and where the clerk would sit and the county attorney would sit. We hadn't done those yet. But the second part, you don't need to tell us to do it. We were in the process of trying to get it done, Mayor Pro Tem. So I removed it as being superfluous. If we were already doing it, why have a resolution to talk about to do it? But the second part of your question is, when are we going to use it?
Yeah.
And that's the more difficult question, because I think we've got at least 3 commissioners who do not want to meet right now in person, and they're trying to limit. Yeah, Dr. Moffitt.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to bring up. From that is Rachel. Is Chris in the area?
I believe he's in his office. Actually, I can check.
Yeah. And with knowing that at least 2 or possibly 3 commissioners don't want to meet, I was going to get Chris to explain the difficulty of trying to do a in-person meeting and broadcasting it via the Zoom. We do not have the technology to do both. So it's an all or nothing scenario when it comes to the technology to either do the Zoom meeting and broadcast it on the web, or do it in person.
I can comment on that because I was part of the team that tried to set it up. I don't know if y'all recall, a couple months ago, we had a public hearing where we attempted to link the systems and use Zoom as well as use our built-in system here in Chambers, and it created an echo. Our system is not optimized to use both Zoom and our built-in system. We were working with the IT department to do so. Any workaround we could find was clunky and created an echo. So that's what we experienced. Chris may have more to add from his perspective. Chris, I'm not sure if you heard what Dr. Moffitt was just saying.
I did. I was like that. If y'all would remember, we tried it for that public hearing back in late May, early June, and it created We tried about 5 or 6 different setups of combining the two systems, but it created such a feedback loop. You couldn't hear anything on any of the microphones.
Y'all done hijacked my plexiglass resolution. I want to get back to, and y'all can discuss that. But back to my plexiglass resolution. Mr. Mayor, are you saying that because I put forth this resolution, are you saying your response to the resolution was you directed Rob to go ahead and start implementing the plexiglass? Because I would say that this is not just to come back just now to say make us meet. I think the new norm is going to be we probably should have plexiglass.
Yeah.
Regardless. I think that's just going to be the new norm for society. If that's what you did, fine. If not, then because I didn't know about the resolution being pulled because that you directed Rob to do it. And if so, then that makes sense. And I don't have to keep asking you about the resolution because I didn't know that I knew you had a sample that you showed us 3-4 weeks ago, but I didn't know that you were trying to install them. Thank you for that.
Can I, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question about that? If
he was muted too, you were muted, Mr.
Yeah, I was muted, and I apologize. What I was trying to say was we were in discussions with Rob about the possibility of doing plexiglass panels before you went to the county attorney's office and asked for it. And I did think it was a little superfluous since we were already looking at it. However, if you want me to, I'd be more than happy to refer this to Facilities and Engineering Committee and let them look at it and see what additional panels they would suggest or recommend if you wanted to do that. So I don't mean to try to put you off. And if you're interested,
no, you're fine.
More,
no, I just didn't know if that's what you were doing.
Matter
the
of fact,
resolution's fine. I didn't know why
do we still have that resolution? Then we'll put it on Facilities and Engineering for 2 weeks from today.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Wynn.
Yes, sir. If for those that it sounds like the majority do want to get back and meet and can, but for those that can't or don't want to, the 2 or 3, could they do a conference call versus Zoom and just have them in the meeting that way? Versus,
I think that's what Chris and Rachel were trying to explain to you. We don't have the ability to do that successfully. By meaning, we can arrange for you to call in, but then when you do, Janice has to hold her phone and put it on speaker and then hold it up to the microphones here on the desk in order to hear or be heard, and it's just difficult to do business that way.
With all our technology, we can't figure this out.
Thus far, we have not been able to do that. Now, maybe if we invested
I'm gonna leave Rachel in charge of that. She'll figure it out.
I can add something to this. To make the two systems link, because we've been trying to figure this out since we had that mishap with the public hearing. It would require a major upgrade that would cost a lot of money for us to have a system that is capable of doing that. Like you mentioned, Commissioner, when there are ways to call in on a phone, but if you've got multiple commissioners calling in and you just have them by phone and Janice is having to hold a phone up to a microphone, it gets incredibly it's almost impossible to do.
We don't have conference call capabilities.
Y'all got Rachel playing politics, talking about money, how much money it's gonna cost us. That should be the least of her worries. Get your technology, Rachel. Don't be saying it's gonna cost money. Get your technology, girlie.
Don't we have conference call technology?
Whoa. 2 weeks from today, it's on Facilities and Engineering, and we'll have people there that can explain it and try to have this. But I don't think it's beneficial to continue this conversation at this time.
I agree.
Okay, so we'll refer to Facilities and Engineering in 2 weeks, and y'all can have a heyday with it then. Are there any points of personal privilege?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you earlier, I joined the meeting a little after you had started, but did we express our condolences publicly to the Charles County family?
We did not, Commissioner Lewis. We did not.
Please take I mean, he was our former assistant county manager, and we've
Correct.
mentioned others who have passed away, and I just feel like we do need to express our condolences to the family of the late Charles Coney.
Well said, well spoken. And we had not done that, so I'm glad that you did.
And to
Because
the other
we-
one that passed away this morning. We need to
Who?
keep
All right.
in mind when they talked about it passed away today or yesterday.
Right. We have had several deaths of employees and former employees here in the last 2 or 3 days, and we do obviously extend our sincere sympathy to the family of Harold Gaines, who's a longtime employee in HR, and Joe Nabham, who was a great addition to the IT department, and his sudden and unexpected death leaves us all in Charles Coney as well. So yeah, we've been several, but point well made, Commissioner Lucas. Any other points of personal privilege? Hearing none, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Goodbye.